Welcome to our deep dive
Uh,
into John Steinbeck's of Mice and Men.
oh, a classic.
It really is. We're going to be looking at George and Lennie,
Right.
two migrant workers, and looking at their search for the American dream during the Depression.
Yeah, and I think what's so powerful about this book is how much Steinbeck packs into such a short
Yeah.
novella. It's really incredible.
Yeah, definitely. And so we're going to follow the chapters in order and get started right away with that first one. We find George and Lennie, they're making their way to a new ranch out in California, but they've just fled their previous job. So what happened there?
Well, right away you see Lennie's character. He's a large man, childlike mind.
Okay.
And he's got this fascination with soft things, right? But his strength, he doesn't always know his own strength.
Oh, I see.
So it leads to unintended consequences.
Uh-oh. Sounds like a recipe for trouble.
Exactly. And at the previous job, he wants to touch this woman's dress, and this leads to accusations. They gotta flee. And that really sets up, I think, this kind of central conflict of the whole story, which is Lennie's innocence
Right.
versus this potential for destruction.
No, that's an interesting way to put it. So they arrive at this new ranch, right? Hoping for a fresh start. What's the atmosphere like when they get there?
Well, right away, Steinbeck makes you feel this sense of foreboding, right? Like the bunkhouse, it's described as sparsely furnished, and it just gives you this sense of loneliness,
Okay.
transience of the men's lives. And you meet some of these really key players like Candy, the aging ranch hand with his very old dog.
Right.
And you can kind of see he's already defeated by life, you know?
Oh, wow.
And then you've got Curley, the boss's son.
Yeah, Curley. He's a tough one.
He is. He's aggressive, he's possessive, and he really takes an instant dislike to Lennie, you know? Maybe threatened by his size.
Right.
And he's always looking for a fight.
Yeah, he's always looking to prove himself. So not exactly a very warm welcome for George and Lennie.
And then you've got Curley's wife, who's this young woman who never even gets a name in the book.
Right.
And she's often seen as this temptress, this source of trouble. And as soon as she appears, you know there's going to be some conflict coming.
Right. Yeah, you get that sense. So let's move on to chapter 2.
Okay.
George and Lennie, they start working on the ranch. Does anything significant happen there?
Yeah, well, this is where you really start to see how things work on the ranch.
Okay.
And this character Slim, the mule driver, emerges, and he's really skilled. And he's like this voice of reason, I think, you know? He's compassionate and perceptive. Really different from Curley.
So Slim's sort of like the moral compass in this story.
You could say that.
Okay.
He really seems to understand people, and he sees the bond between George and Lennie, and he gets it.
There's also that unsettling conversation about Candy's dog.
Yeah. You have Carlson, another ranch hand. He starts complaining about the dog. The dog's old, it smells.
Right.
And he says they should just shoot it.
Oh, wow.
Which, it's like this foreshadowing, right? You start thinking about what's going to happen later.
Right.
And this whole idea of mercy killing.
It's a pretty harsh world, I guess, if even a loyal dog's not safe.
Right. You're really seeing the reality of life on this ranch. And like I said, it makes you think about these difficult choices that George might have to make later.
Oh, okay. All right. So chapter 3.
Yeah.
This is where things start to get really complicated.
Oh, yeah. Lennie accidentally kills a puppy that Slim had given him.
Oh, no.
So again, you see that he just can't control his own strength.
Yeah.
Even when he doesn't want to hurt anything.
Right. It really just emphasizes that he's caught between his innocence and his destructive capabilities.
Exactly. And it just gets worse in this chapter.
Oh, no.
Because Lennie gets into it with Curley.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a tough scene.
It is. Curley's, he's jealous. He's suspicious.
Right.
He attacks Lennie. And at first, Lennie doesn't fight back, but then George tells him, defend yourself.
Yeah.
And Lennie ends up crushing Curley's hand.
Oh, wow. So he can't control his strength, and he's kind of easy to manipulate, you know?
Exactly. He's very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And you know that this fight's going to lead to more trouble.
Yeah.
And you see how power and vulnerability are just kind of playing out in this whole story.
Okay. Yeah, chapter 3 definitely ends on a pretty dark note. So what happens next?
Well, chapter 4 kind of shifts the focus. We start to learn about some of the other characters, like Crooks, the black stable hand.
Right.
He lived separately because of, segregation back then.
Right.
And he's really a symbol of that racism, and how isolated people were who were marginalized.
Yeah. His character really adds like another layer to to the story's exploration of loneliness and wanting to belong.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's in this chapter that Candy overhears George and Lennie talking about their farm.
Oh, right, right.
And he offers up his life savings. He wants to join them. He wants a place to belong, too.
Wow. So their dream kind of starts to become a shared dream.
It does. There's a little glimmer of hope there, but,
Yeah.
it's fragile.
Right.
Later that day, Lennie's alone in the barn. He's still upset about the puppy.
Yeah.
And this is where things go bad.
Okay.
Curly's wife comes in. She wants attention, someone to talk to.
Hmm.
And she tells Lennie how lonely she is. You see, her dreams haven't come true either.
Yeah. It's like they connect for a minute, you know?
It is. They're both searching for something more.
Right.
But then it all goes wrong. Lennie, he sees her soft hair and he wants to touch it.
Uh-oh.
And she panics and he tries to stop her from screaming and he accidentally breaks her neck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah, it seals Lennie's fate. He just wanted to touch her hair, but now it's really bad.
Right. All his innocent desires just lead to these horrible consequences.
Exactly. And that's the end of chapter 4.
Wow. It's like their dream is gone now, along with Curly's wife.
It feels that way. Yeah.
It's amazing how Steinbeck really sets this all up. Like, we know something terrible is going to happen.
Yeah.
And we followed them right from the beginning, right to this point where everything's kind of fallen apart. Let's pause here for a minute, and then we'll come back and finish up of Mice and Men.
Sounds good.
We left off with Lennie running away from the barn after what happened with Curly's wife.
Yeah.
So what happens next?
Okay, so chapter 5, it opens with Lennie. He's hiding in the brush by the river, right? The same spot that George told him to go to if there was ever trouble.
Oh, right, right.
And Steinbeck, he uses this really vivid imagery to create this sense of peace. It's like this quiet moment before all the chaos breaks loose.
Yeah, like the calm before the storm.
Exactly. Lennie's kind of retreating back into his world. All he can think about is that farm that George keeps telling him about.
Right, right. But we know it's not going to last, right? Like the men on the ranch, they're going to figure out what happened.
Yeah. And when they do, it's bad.
Yeah.
They find Curly's wife, and Curly, he just wants revenge.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to find Lennie and kill him.
It's like in that kind of world, there's no real justice. It's just violence.
Yeah. And George, he knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
He knows they're going to hunt Lennie down. And he has to make a decision.
To protect Lennie.
Yeah.
Right. From something even worse.
Yeah. He takes Carlson's gun.
Oh, wow.
And goes to find Lennie before the others do.
Okay, so chapter 6, this is where it all comes to a head, right?
Yeah. And it's a really sad scene. George finds Lennie by the river, just lost in his thoughts about the rabbits.
Oh, man.
But George, he doesn't yell at him or anything. He just sits down next to him. It's like in that moment, he understands Lennie.
Right, right.
And he wants to give him one last moment of peace.
Oh, that's powerful.
He knows what he has to do, and he decides to make it quick for Lennie.
He tells him about the farm again, doesn't he?
He does. It's like he's telling him a bedtime story
Yeah.
to calm him down. And then, while Lennie's picturing that farm in his head, George shoots him.
Oh, wow. That's really heavy.
It is, but it's also an act of mercy,
Like-
And then the other guys, when they show up,
Yeah.
they don't really get it.
They don't understand what George did for Lennie.
No. Only Slim, that mule driver, he seems to understand.
Right, because he was the moral compass of the story.
Exactly. He sees that George loved Lennie,
Right.
and he comforts him. And the story just ends there, with that dream of the farm gone.
Yeah.
It's this empty feeling.
Wow. It's really, really sad how it all ends. But I guess that's Steinbeck for you.
He doesn't sugarcoat things.
No, he definitely doesn't. So we've really gotten to know George and Lennie and everyone on that ranch. But I'm curious about some of the deeper stuff in the story.
Yeah.
Like what about Lennie always wanting to touch soft things? Like, is there more to that than we see on the surface?
Yeah, I think it's more than just a weird habit. It's like a symbol, right? Like he just wants comfort. He's innocent, but because he's so strong, that innocence turns dangerous. It's like Steinbeck is showing us that, good intentions can still have really bad consequences.
So like when he kills the puppy and then Curly's wife,
Yeah.
those soft things, they represent that that danger.
Exactly. And you can't forget about the rabbits, right? That's
Yeah.
all Lenny wants.
Yeah.
He's a place where he belongs, but he can't have it. It's so sad.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
And then there's the farm itself, right?
Yeah.
It's more than just, owning land. It's about security, about a future.
Yeah.
But it's always just out of reach.
So it's like Steinbeck is saying that their hopes, they're just not going to happen.
Yeah. He makes you wonder about the American dream,
Right.
Like, is it really possible for everyone, especially back then during the Depression?
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. And even the title of Mice and Men,
Yeah.
it makes you think about those dreams not coming true.
Exactly. It's from that poem by Robert Burns, like, you can plan all you want, but things might not work out.
So is of Mice and Men just like a totally sad story, or is there something good in it too?
Well, the ending is definitely tragic, but I think it also shows us how important it is to have connections with other people,
Yeah.
like George and Lennie. Yeah, it's a messy friendship, but they really do love each other, and you see that loyalty in a world that's all about looking out for yourself.
And Slim gets it too, right?
Yeah.
At the end, he knows why George did it.
Yeah. Even in all that sadness, there's still kindness. Of Mice and Men, it's a story that makes you think. It stays with you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we've made it to the end of our deep dive.
We did it.
We explored friendship, loneliness, and that idea of the American dream. We hope you enjoyed it. You're